You might be wondering how the Model Code of Conduct actually limits governments and political parties during elections. You might also be confused about what parts of campaigning are allowed and what actions the Election Commission can stop. By the end of this video, you will be completely clear about what the MCC is, when it applies, and why it matters for UPSC. Today, we will cover a simple definition, the main do's and don'ts for parties and candidates, key restrictions on the ruling party, and enforcement challenges. And towards the end, we will understand a key idea that most UPSC aspirants miss. First, what is the Model Code of Conduct in plain words? The MCC is a set of guidelines issued by the Election Commission of India to ensure free and fair elections. It tells political parties, candidates, and even government officials what they should and should not do from the announcement of elections until polling is over. Note that the MCC is not a statute passed by Parliament, but a code enforced by the Election Commission's authority and moral power. The Election Commission is a permanent independent body responsible for conducting elections to Parliament, state legislatures, and the offices of President and Vice President. So the MCC works like a rule book the Election Commission uses to keep the playing field level for all contestants. Let us break the MCC into three easy parts: general conduct, election day rules, and restrictions on the ruling party. General conduct asks parties and candidates to avoid appealing for votes on the basis of caste, religion, or community, and not to create hatred or tension among groups. It allows criticism of policies and records, but asks politicians to avoid personal attacks against rivals or their families. Think of it like fair play in a sports match. You can fight over strategy, but you cannot attack the referee or the crowd. For meetings and rallies, parties must seek prior permission from police so authorities can manage traffic and security. Processions too must notify authorities about timings and routes so public order is preserved. On or before polling, the code prohibits campaigning within 100 meters of polling booths, organizing public meetings within 48 hours of polling, and serving alcohol to influence voters 24 hours before polling and on polling day. It also requires voter identity slips to be printed on plain white paper without party names or symbols to avoid partisan influence at booths. Now the rules that bite hardest for governments: restrictions on the ruling party and use of public resources. Ministers and ruling party officials must not use government machinery, buildings, vehicles, or employees for campaigning once elections are announced. The ruling party cannot publish advertisements paid from public funds to showcase achievements during the election period. They must also avoid announcing new schemes, grants, or laying foundation stones for projects that could sway voters while elections are on. The code even asks that helipads, aircraft, and public places not be monopolized, so opposition leaders can access similar facilities under fair conditions. These restrictions aim to stop the misuse of public funds and administrative advantage to influence voter choice. How does the Election Commission enforce the MCC? The ECI uses notices, censure, orders to stop rallies, and can recommend legal or administrative action if violations occur. Often, enforcement relies on swift action and public scrutiny, because the MCC is a political and moral constraint more than a criminal law in many cases. That is why implementation can be uneven, and why reform debates about stronger legal backing come up after major elections. This concept is very important for your exams because questions on electoral ethics, the role of the Election Commission, and constraints on executive power are frequently asked in UPSC. In prelims, you may see statements about MCC provisions. In mains, you may get essay or ethics questions on misuse of state resources and election integrity. Here is a simple memory trick. Group MCC rules into three buckets: fair speech, fair process, and fair use of state power. Fair speech covers no appeals on caste or religion and no personal attacks. Fair process covers permissions, rallies, and polling day restrictions. And fair use covers bans on government advantage. This bucket trick helps you frame answers that are structured and crisp in exams. A short example answer could list the prohibition on advertisements from public funds, the ban on new schemes after announcement, and the 48-hour silence before polling. Remember to explain why each rule protects voter equality and democratic choice, not just to list them. Before we close, a quick look at limitations. The MCC is powerful but not foolproof, and political will and rapid enforcement determine its effectiveness. This gap between guidelines and practice is why many experts call for electoral reforms and stronger statutory measures to back the MCC. To recap, the MCC is a code issued by the Election Commission to ensure fair campaigning, restrict the ruling party's use of state power, and protect polling integrity. Key specifics to remember: no caste or religion appeals, no campaigning near booths, 48-hour restriction before polling, plain identity slips, and ban on public-funded ads. If you remember the three-bucket speech, process, state power, you will answer most UPSC questions on MCC confidently. Keep practicing short, structured answers and connect each MCC rule to the larger principle of a level electoral playing field. If you want more examples, past UPSC questions, and concise notes, continue learning with EduRev for clear summaries and practice tests. Good luck, stay curious, and see you in the next lesson where we unpack another election law nuance most aspirants miss.